Hello everyone, my name is Royal and today I wanted to try something a bit new. I will be talking about Divinity Original Sin 2 and giving you an impression of this game. In other words, I will be doing a review of this game today. I didn't want to do a full let's play of my first playthrough, but who knows. If I find some people to do co-op, you might see more of this game. At the time of making this video, I have clocked just over 110 hours into the game and I finished it on my first run. Just so you know, this was my first game in the series, so don't be afraid that you wouldn't understand the story. This game is placed 1000 years after the previous installation, so you won't encounter too many characters from that period. This game will give enough information when you need it, but you will want to look up some pieces of information on the internet throughout your playthrough. Now, what is Divinity Original Sin 2? It's an open world role-playing game made by a Belgian studio, Larian. Shout out to my Belgian boys. I've heard from others that it reminds them of the old school RPGs with the top-down viewpoint and turn-based combat system, but more on that later. It has a distinct Dungeons & Dragons feel to it because of the frequent persuasion checks in conversations, and lots of things depend on numbers allocated to your character. The game was partly funded by using crowdfunding, and I think it's fair to say the result is stunning for the size of the studio. Right now, the game will set you back $44.99 on Steam and GOG. My history with RPGs is quite limited. In my time, I played some RuneScape. That was probably the most comparable to this one. Later, I drove into more popular titles such as The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas. These titles, made by Bethesda, have a lot in common with Divinity Original Sin 2, such as story, playable races and much more. But more importantly, they are very different from each other. Divinity was pretty scary when I first saw and played it. I got to know the game via a streamer on Twitch called RS Merchant. He was playing the game in co-op. Even though this didn't convey much of the story or gameplay, I was immediately hooked. I needed to play this game. Let's dive right in. This video will be split up into 6 parts and you can find the timestamps in the video description. Now let's briefly start with the first part, graphics. The game looks good, very good even. The nice depth of field effect, yeah, I'm a sucker for those. Great looking textures and meshes, and of course the stunning, get it? Stunning visual effects from the magic and skill abilities. You get to look at loads of status effects on the ground and on your enemies, and they did an amazing job making them look good. The character models are really convincing and the animation work doesn't get enough praise, I think. Nothing more to say, really, just what you would expect from a new game. In any good RPG, the character creation is crucial. You want to be able to play as anyone you want. Want to be a dwarven necromancer who is good at speechcraft and convincing people to fight for him? Sure. Want to be an elven warrior that has surprisingly strong attacks and hates all undead? Why not? You can choose who you are. But you can also choose one of 6 pre-made origin characters with defined backstory and extra quests and objectives. Let's go over these characters quickly and talk about what makes them unique. Sebille is a female elf. Once bound by shackles as a slave, she escaped the grip of her master and now seeks some form of revenge. Elves can consume the flesh of the fallen to gain some of their memories. The Red Prince, a male lizard, was exiled from his land because of a grave error he made. He seeks a way to reclaim his place on the throne. Lizards can read and understand ancient languages that others cannot, and they have more resistances.
I was destined to become the next emperor.
Ifan Ben Metz, a male human, is an ex-soldier turned hired thug for the Lone Wolves, a notorious organization known for completing assassination contracts on high-value targets. Humans are very adaptable and profit from extra initiative in combat. And he also has a sexy voice.
Now I'm a mercenary killer. One of the infamous lone wolves.
Lohse, a female human, is a semi-famous musician that loves to roam the world. Though she suffers from being possessed by some entity and she fears she will lose control. She wants to find out what this creature is and if she can get rid of it. Beast, a male dwarf, rebelled against the Dwarven Queen but failed. He started a new life on the Seven Seas and still seeks to stop the reign of the monarch. Dwarves are known to be sturdy fighters and unseen thieves. And lastly, Fane. He is a male sorcerer turned undead after a mysterious event wiped out most of his world. He has to hide his true face from the masses and seeks answers about what has happened. Undead heal from poison and get damaged from healing. As I said, these characters have a defined background, but you can still choose what kind of a build you want to use with them. Choosing an origin character doesn't force you into a role when playing. You will choose from a selection of classes that dictate your playstyle. Will you be a ranger that summons minions to fight up close while he rains down arrows from a distance, or be a rogue that strikes with precision from the shadows? The choice is yours. Don't like your specific build anymore after a few hours? You can change it after Act 1 in the game. Every character will have 2 tags that describe what kind of a person they are. These tags include Soldier, Outlaw, Scholar, Noble, Barbarian, Jester, Mystic and Rogue. They, alongside with your origin, should you pick one, will give you unique solutions to a problem. For example, a mighty wizard may give you a book and tell you something about it. With Mystic, you will be able to ask a smart question to learn more about it. Or, with Scholar, you can recognize the language and symbols it's written in and understand it that way. This is just a simple example, and the game goes very in-depth with this system. Now, let's talk about the story. You start the game on a ship, heading to the island of Fort Joy, a prison for people like you, sorcerers, people who can channel a powerful energy called Source. The owners of Fort Joy, the Magisters, believe that sorcerers are responsible for the recent outbreak of Void-woken attacks. These are monstrous creatures from the Void that are attracted to Source magic. So, the Magisters sought to capture every sorcerer to stop the Void-woken from terrorizing the land. During the first large chunk of the game, your only objective is to escape the fort and leave the island. What you do in between doing this objective depends on you, the player. One of the things that scared me but also intrigued me was the quest system. This game does not hold your hands when it comes to the quest log and quest markers. You will have to figure out a lot of things by yourself. To give an example, let's compare this game to another title such as The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. In Skyrim, you might meet a merchant. After a short conversation, he tells you about a person in town he wants you to convince to make a deal with him. Fair enough, you say? You get a quest update, it says talk to this person. You will follow the floating map markers straight to the guy and talk to him. You convince him and you return. Quest complete. Now, in Divinity, things might go a little bit differently. Okay, so you meet the merchant and he tells you about the person. You will get a quest update along the lines of, we met a merchant who asked us to talk to this person. No more, no less, because this is the actual information the merchant gave us, not the exact location of this person, just that he wants us to have a chat with him. Now, we are encouraged to explore and find this person. When we eventually meet the guy, he might refuse to talk to us because of our race or gender. Yes, discrimination exists. Or he might adore us because of our origin. It's possible we have to persuade him. That's a civil ability you'll have to put points in, by the way. Or we can bribe him. We could also fight him for his gold and return to the merchant saying he died before we got to him. But that would probably be a persuasion check again. The way this game handles quests is truly open. many games claim they have unlimited possibilities while having 2 choices to complete a quest. Not with this one. The game is split up into different acts or chapters. Each one puts you on a different landmass in the world. Now, the great thing here is that every part felt very different from another and very unique as well. Some parts were more interesting than the others, sure, but there was always a hunger to explore more, to find hidden loot, people in need, or enemies to slay. We have talked a little bit about characters and factions before, but let's dig in a little bit deeper. Loads of people you meet will have defined alliances and bonds with other characters. It's up to you to decide what groups you want to support and who you trust. Often, people will have a hidden agenda, and they seek to use your powerful skills to their benefit. The biggest and most loved faction in the game is the Magisters. Not. They are the first one you meet in your position as prisoner, and them as your captor, so you'd imagine not liking them. While playing the game and experiencing the story, you will discover the motivations of these people and see that from their viewpoint they are doing the right thing. And that's what makes this game special. Nothing is black and white, even though you might not agree with some ideologies of certain groups, but so is life. An interesting tip I can give you guys is, after a fight or in a place where presumably lots of people died, use spirit vision. This will give you an interesting insight into the minds of the dead. Did they truly support their cause to the death, or do they have regrets now that they roam the Hall of Echoes? Will you let their spirit rest or purge them from their source for your own benefit? Now let's talk a bit about the actual gameplay in Divinity Original Sin 2. The most important part of this game, I believe, is the actual gameplay. I love the way it flows. The gameplay follows a clear problem solution structure. You encounter a certain problem, that being enemies in your path, a person in distress, or a chest full of epic gear that is just out of your reach. Following this problem, you will need to find a solution. Now, let's talk very specifically about the problems I just summed up. So, enemies in your path, how can you deal with them? You could kill them and loot them and just continue. You could try to talk to them, persuade them to let you pass, or you could try to sneak past and avoid the whole confrontation. There are limitless options to resolve certain problems in the game, and that's why I think the gameplay feels truly open. You could always do what you want, and I love the way that goes. There are multiple ways to play the game. You can, as I did in my first run, play the story solo. The thing I like the most about this is that you can take as much time as you want to fully explore every nook and cranny of every building, cave, forest, you name it. You are in control, 4 characters in combat, and you can plan difficult to execute combos well in advance. You could also play the story in co-op with up to 3 friends. I have not tried this option, but it's how I first saw the game being played, with 3 people in co-op. The thing that will be difficult to orchestrate here is that you should probably try to stick together and also make sure the party composition stays diverse enough. Once again, I would love to play co-op one day with you guys, so be sure to join the Discord server in the description and drop me a line if you're interested. Lastly, you can play the game D&D style, meaning one player will take the role of Dungeon Master and guide a group of up to 4 players through a custom or pre-built campaign. I actually just tried this yesterday and it was really enjoyable. I met up with 4 random guys on the Divinity Discord server and we played for almost 3 hours on a custom map the guy built. It was very impressive and I cannot wait for the second part later today. Okay, moving swiftly on from the gameplay part, we will go over the combat. You will be in a lot of fights, so you better be prepared for every potential conflict. Here are 4 things to keep in mind when fighting your opponents. Okay, number 1. You should keep an eye on your armor. The game has 2 different types of armor, physical and magical armor. They each block certain types of attacks. Physical blocks melee strikes and arrows, and magical blocks spells and magical abilities. While it's important to make sure your character has enough of both, you should focus your attacks on the correct enemy to make sure you don't waste a lot of damage. Number 2. Use the terrain to your advantage. Try to always get on the high ground. If you're a mage or ranger type build, you will get a damage bonus depending on your huntsman skill from 20 to 70% or even higher. For melee builds, position yourself correctly so you can hit a few people, but not get taken down by the enemy rangers and mages. Number 3. Create status effects on the ground or in clouds to make the opponent's lives worse. The game uses a lot of magical spells, and each of them leaves an impact on the person or the ground that you target. The most basic ones are fire and water, that respectively set your enemies on fire if their magic armor is low enough, and make everyone in an area wet. Now, the trick here is to combine different spells together to synergize. For example, if an enemy is wet, they will be weak to air-type attacks, and if an enemy is covered in oil, then setting them on fire will put the light out for him. Lastly, the combat is tactical turn-based, so take your time when choosing your next attack. Sometimes it might be better to delay your own turn so that enemies can come closer to you, or other times you can set up the perfect chain reaction of status effects, just like I mentioned in the previous parts. Wow, you made it to the last part in the video, Gameworld and level design. This one will be quite brief since I talked about it before. I truly love how diverse and well designed most of the cities, caves, sewers and forests were. At every encounter they sought to create an opportunity for every type of character in the game. They managed to make it seem very realistic while still being fun to play and to interact with the environment. One of the most memorable places I remember was the Imp Gem on the Nameless Isle. Spoiler warning for everyone who didn't play the game already. Continue to the conclusion if you don't want to hear about this. So, rubbing a strange gem on the Nameless Isle would transport you inside the gem where the machines stopped working properly and the time moved slowly. I really loved the atmosphere of the world inside the gem, the music that played slower than usual and the interesting puzzles you had to solve to restore the core of this little world. It was a little bit annoying at first, walking at a very slow pace while trying to figure out this puzzle, but looking back at it, I thought it was an interesting concept for sure. Well, we've reached the end of this video. I would like to conclude it with one simple sentence. Don't be afraid to try this game even if you've never played anything like it before, because the game is very good and I highly recommend it. Alright. That's officially the end of my first review video. Since it was the first time that I tried such a thing, I would highly enjoy reading your feedback in the comments. I thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next video.
Listen to